This channel is supported by TrueFire. TrueFire is an online library of lessons from some of my favourite players. There's thousands of lessons on there. You can use the promo code JNC40 to get 40% off of any of their courses. The Boss IR2. Now you already know about this and you've seen a bunch of sponsored or promoted videos around it because it came out a few weeks back and Leon Todd did a really cool demo of it, and the sounds that I was hearing from that, I thought that sounds better than most Boss devices that I've heard out of the box. For that reason I decided I would buy one. I've already done one video on it where I kind of said this was a bit of a game changer, and the reason I thought that is what I wanted to explore in this video and why I think this is kind of exciting for a few reasons. Now, I'm not being paid to make this video, nor did I get sent this for free. I paid for this because I thought, well, actually, most people can probably relate to the fact that this is the sort of thing that they're actually going to buy, I think. So, up until this point, most of the devices that are out there catering to this sort of thing, so we're talking the Strymon Iridium kind of, I think, is the first one since like Sans Amp with their Tech 21 stuff, Tech 21 Sans Amp character series. The Strymon Iridium kind of came out, and the idea with that is that you've got something kind of simple, this kind of size, but well, a bit bigger because it's the Iridium, but that can do these direct to front of house type tones or direct to your computer. Had headphone input in it as well, so catering to those people that are playing at home. The one thing that I used to see people saying about the Strymon Iridium very often was doesn't have an effects loop. So when I'm playing headphone practice, if I'm using driven tones, I would rather have the delay reverb after the amp, this sort of thing, so I could get it in my ears So that was kind of one thing that I was reading all the time about this Strymon Iridium. Another thing that I personally felt was that there was these 3 amp choices in there, but it would be nice maybe to have a bit of a broader choice or be able to load in some different things. However, the Strymon Iridium, for me, I was quite skeptical to start with. I did come around to actually really enjoying it, but I don't have one anymore. Then, after that, kind of you got the Walrus Audio ACS1, which was very similar, same amp choices. One of the main differences with the Walrus Audio ACS1 is that you can load both of them at a time, so you could do basically all of the Strymon Iridium things, but both at the same time. The other key issue with the ACS1 and the Iridium for me is that it only had like this room ambience thing going on, right? And so for me, actually, the room sound is not always the most useful thing for me personally. If I had a choice of a hall or a plate or sometimes a spring maybe, I might go for that instead. Universal Audio also brought out their amp series, and that has the same kind of issues going on, no effects loop and no headphone output for those. Or does it have a headphone out? I can't remember. It may do, but the Dream 65 did solve the kind of room ambience thing, because on the Dream 65 there's a really amazing spring emulation. So that was one that kind of, to me, opened the door a little bit and kind of made me think, okay, well, this could be going somewhere. Then there's the NUX Amp Academy, which does have most of these things solved. It does have an effects insert as well. The other thing with those other units is that they're generally sort of around £400. The NUX is obviously a bit cheaper, but whether you hold them in the same sort of quality, I guess, is a point of debate. The reason that, therefore, the Boss IR2 kind of changes the game a little bit is because A, it's smaller than all of the other units. B, it's cheaper. C, you get more amps in it than most of the other units and more variety. D, you've got the effects loop in there. E, you've got the ability to run it as an audio interface. What are we on? F, it's got a reverb in there that doesn't just have to be a room sound. It can be a hall or a plate. And actually, I think the plate reverb sounds really good. G, it sounds really good, especially when you consider that potentially one of the things that people kind of say about Boss in some ways is that it doesn't necessarily sound really great. I think what they've done by chucking in the Celestian IRs, it seems to just work really well off the bat. It can load other IRs, so, you know, the more we get into it, I guess the more we might decide, right, I'm going to try some other things. The little downsides for me on there, in terms of clean choices, we've got a Twin, we've got a Roland JC120, I guess we've got a Vox, but for me there might be, I don't know, a debate for adding some more kind of clean options possibly, but then a clean is a clean in some ways. And then there's lots of choices around, you know, a Plexi, which I think I was using in intro there, sounds really good. You've got high gain, Soldano, Brown, modded and rectifier. For me, the rectifier is maybe the one thing that I might switch out for something different. But other than that, good choices. The other kind of thing that I'm still, although it's kind of these 3 stacked pots, I'm finding it, for whatever reason, difficult to remember which is which, and it's not necessarily the easiest to see. But in terms of actually integrating into a pedal board and also being on your pedal board and being able to use it for headphone practice because it has that send and return, it seems to me that this is probably the most fully featured version of this that we've seen to date. That's kind of where the game is at right now, right? It's got an effects loop. It does the audio interface thing. You can sensibly use it with headphones. It's tiny. You know, I don't know if there's anything that I can think of that they've not really kind of thought of there. One thing for me, deeper editing, things like being able to add in high cuts and stuff might be of benefit, but then that's kind of literally not the point of this. The point of this is to be really simple, right? Kind of falling off a log type thing. And I think for me, this is the sort of pedal which, you know, is begging people, you know, give me a try. A really good idea for like a backup in case your amp goes down and you needed something to go direct to front of house. A really good idea for something that you keep under your board, for occasional having to go direct gigs, maybe. And I think has some really usable tones in it as well. So it's not just that it's like cheap and kind of a good size. I think actually it does sound really good. So that's the amp and cabinet IR2. Some more kind of playing and thoughts coming up, but I don't know, I just wanted to do a video on that. I don't think it's all hype. I think, to be honest, Boss stuff is generally pretty free from hype because actually they just make pretty solid gear. So I think this has been really quite an interesting little piece of kit. So this is just the first things that I dialed in, the first day video that I got it. I've just plugged it back in. I've got the blues driver in front of it. I've got the amp and cabinet, and that's going into a delay, a dual delay and reverb on the HX Stomp. So that's using the Fender Twin style tone or model. The reason that I've got it used in this way with the HX Stomp is because this is kind of my typical delay and reverb settings, and I'm guessing that most people are going to be using the amp and cabinet from Boss in a way where it sort of integrates into their existing rig, right? And it is probably the easiest to integrate compared to some of the competition out there because it does have a stereo effects loop in it. For me, I'm just using, as I said, blues driver into amp and cabinet, and that's all in mono going into the stereo delay and reverb. But you know, it sounds pretty great, I think. And this is kind of one of the other things. It sounds better, I think, straight away than I've managed to get most of the Boss stuff sounding without much tweaking. I think that might be part of the Celestion IRs thing. But so, it pedals really nicely as well. This is the blues driver. And if I increase the gain there and just take the level down a bit, is that level or is that middle? The only thing that I'm finding difficult is remembering which knob controls what. So without the blues drive, if I take off the delay and reverb, then we've got our clean blues driver. So it's doing a nice job there, even into the clean of accepting that. And then the other side that I kicked on was this plexi side. And I've got the plate reverb on, right? And I can have independent kind of reverb settings, right? So when I kick over to my lead, I could have that ambience come off or turn on or whatever. So you could have like your clean with your thing, then jump over to a rhythm. and then kick on a blues drive. If I put back on my reverb and delay from the Helix, I think such is the cost with this that you only have to find a couple of sounds that you really jive with, and this is kind of how I've ended up using the Boss Waza Airs to get loads out of it. It's not the sort of thing that you're necessarily going to need to spend ages tweaking, but for me, it's just a really cool little pedal. Maybe I should just try a Vox thing. The only thing is that I worry about like losing your settings, but it's so easy to kind of. This is the Vox. So I might start with everything kind of in the middle to start off with, just in terms of dialing in. I think it's a really exciting little pedal, modelling tones that sound, I think, really decent, especially considering, I think, the perception that a lot of people have of Boss. I think a lot of people are going to be enjoying some of these tones, enjoying the price, enjoying the compactness of it, enjoying the fact that you can run it with headphones, enjoying the fact that it's an audio interface, enjoying the fact that it's got an effects loop. It's just that they've got so much of it right that I think there's a lot that you could overlook, and it's the sort of thing that I read on a forum, someone saying, this is the sort of thing that Boss is saying, I dare you to give it a try. And I think this is probably one of the things that I'd really recommend people sort of get out and have a go on and see whether this works for them. And in any case, I think that'll be really easy to shift on the second-hand market if you don't get on with them. So yeah, I don't know, give it a try. Maybe let me know your thoughts in the comments if you tried one yet. What do you think of the tones? I'd love to know your thoughts. Cheers.